What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Hoarcrux here, and I know it's been a while since I've uploaded, so I thought we would start pretty fresh. So, Ashes of Creation. Now, let's talk about it, boys. Let's talk about it. So, Ashes of Creations, I probably have about 200 hours into it right now, and with the new server Soul that just dropped as a fresh start server, I did get to level 25 on my mage, and let me tell you, it's been quite a journey. So in this video, we're going to be talking about all the pros, all the cons. Is Ashes for you? Is it worth investing your time, your money, your effort, and yeah, all that fun stuff. I don't know if I'm going to have any gameplay just kind of reeling in the background. I think I'm going to take this first video back pretty easy and just sit here and talk to you guys. Like, honestly, is Ashes worth your time? How's the community? How is the community managers? How's the dev working? How's the pre-alpha stages going? We're going to make a lot of comparisons to kind of ESO with its multi-class setup. We're going to be talking about a lot in this video. I'm going to try to keep it kind of short and sweet, but again, I want to be talking about Ashes through my experience, me going through this almost completely solo. Yes, I did have to join people kind of toward the end to join groups to get the in-game gear and stuff like that, but it is a team-based game. I'm just going to tell you guys that right now. If you think you're going to jump into this game solo and have a phenomenal time, you will up to a point. Maybe the first 20 hours you'll have a good time, but after that, it does require group content, and that is one of my biggest pet peeves. Is that right now in the current alpha state, there is not enough solo content. I mean, there's hardly any questing. Again, it's all alpha. I get it. I get that it's alpha, right? Steven and the team does listen to feedback pretty regularly. They're really good about taking the community's feedback and hot patching pretty much like every day. There's a patch for something, you know, with exploiting, you know, speed hacking. I'm trying to help out the economy. Ashes of Creation compared to other MMOs is a very, very slow, grindy investor time in game. To give you an example, Steven stated that in order to get to in-game, you know, like level 50 in-game, which is currently in the alpha state, it's only level 25, but to get to level 50, you need to be playing 6 hours a day, and it's going to take you 45 days in order to reach that plateau. Of course, that's estimates. That may change over time, but kind of put that in perspective when you compare that to ESO. You can grind out character max level in like a few hours, you know what I mean? You know, depending on your champion point system. But this is not going to be a game to where you can run multiple classes. You are going to pick a class, and if you don't love it, well, that kind of sucks for you. There's going to be a lot of different classes. Right now, I think there's only like 6 or 7 or so, but there's going to be a lot of multi-classing eventually come out in the alpha 3 phase, which I will be streaming a lot. And if you guys haven't followed me on Twitch or YouTube, all that's down in the description below. It's just Hoarcrux YT on Twitch, and then on YouTube, it's just Hoarcrux. Obviously, you wouldn't be watching this video otherwise. I don't know why I said that. Anyway. But I'm going to go down a lot of the pros that we kind of ran into. We'll start really strong with what the game does well. The game's fidelity is absolutely beautiful. I just got a new Starforge PC, and it runs it tremendously well. Yes, there's lag, you know, yeah, whatever. Within game, there's lag, especially within alpha. But it is, fidelity-wise, it is a absolutely beautiful game. The skill trees are set up pretty awesome. You can use kind of whatever weapon you want with whatever skill classes that you want. The skill book tree is kind of coming from a theory crafting, like I can build like a build theory crafting, you know, kind of get an ESO. There's a lot of theory crafting. There's thousands and thousands upon different builds you can run. In Ashes, there's really not. It's very similar to World of Warcraft. There's really not set bonuses. I mean, there are, but the set bonuses are so minuscule and so mundane that they really don't matter at all. There's no sets that alter any abilities in your classes. Again, I understand. It's alpha, you know, I'm kind of going into that with this perspective, you know, it's just the beginnings of the game, like we get it, but there's not a lot of build variety. What mostly the game kind of focuses around is kind of dynamic world building. So it's, and just kind of, we'll start going into the pros. So how is it different from like any other MMO? So Ashes Creation, I guess, yeah, the best way to put it is a dynamic world building. It's kind of like a node system, because There's a lot of different nodes kind of around the map that you're in. It's very political. You can usher in mayors. You can vote for mayors. I think there's a couple of different ways to become a mayor, and as the mayor, you kind of control how that node in that city functions. PvP bonuses are gathering, or you get to pick what infrastructures are built. You get to do raid caravans. You get to do PvP. I mean, there is quite a bit of that. It's kind of like almost like a second life, kind of like a second real world life. And a lot of people may be really turned off by that, but I think it's different. It's different. Playing it solo, I didn't really feed into it. I just wanted to get the in game. I want the in game gear. I want PvP. I want to kill some bitches, right? Speaking of which, you can PK anyone, right? There are downsides to becoming a raid player, right? You do lose gear. If you PK someone, you can literally kill anyone you want. I mean, just not in the town, obviously, but you can fucking kill anyone you want. In so doing, you do get flagged, like hardcore flagged. So there's like a purple flag and there's like a red flag. If you are just straight up cold-blooded killer, you're red. That means anyone can kill you. You get a super hard debuff on you for like the entire duration of it. And when you die, you actually drop pieces of gear you have equipped. So is it worth it to PK someone? Not really. I've been PKing people just because it's funny. There was this bard. So it's kind of perspective. I'm going a little bit of a tangent. How kind of fun and quirky this game is. So we're in Still Bloom. It's kind of like one of the in-game farming areas, and there's like these big roads that you're on up top, kind of pulling all the mobs. And this bard kept blowing everyone off with his fucking pushback. He kept resetting the mobs over and over and over. He did this like 9 times, and I just got sick of it. And I flagged up, I killed him, turned red, and then when you're red, everyone can kill you, even your party members. So upon doing that, you do lose 2 or 3 pieces of gear you have equipped. You can't unequip them. There's really no way around it. So you can't do it. Should you do it? Probably not. And you do kind of get a reputation sometimes. What you can also do is, this is a pro and a con, I guess. You can train mobs. So what you can do, if there's like a raid or someone kind of stealing a farm area, you can go and aggro a bunch of mobs, and you kind of bring them to that area, right? And then you let the mob wipe that group, and then you go and loot that group. And there's all kinds of little shenanigans that you can do. It's kind of frowned upon. It's super toxic, but I love it. Some more of the pros I want to touch on. The map is absolutely massive. There's no fast traveling as of now. You can death port, where you say like a home port. Let's say in the middle of the map, and say if you want to quickly traverse the map, you can just kill yourself, off yourself, and then you can teleport that way to a node spawn. But you can't teleport. The only way you can get around the map quickly is with a flying mount, and you can't get a flying mount unless you're a mayor of a node, which is kind of why I mentioned the whole dynamic world building is pretty muy importante. At the time recording this and playing, there really wasn't a lot of raids, a lot of like in-game dungeons, anything like that. It is different. I don't know if this is going to be a pro or a con, but we will get into the in-game loop, because there is no in-game loop in Ashes. And that's going to be a turn-off for some people, and some people are going to cream their panties over it. Me, personally, like World of Warcraft, for example, I don't like grinding mythic dungeons and mythic keys and doing the LG raids. I don't like doing that, where you have to log in every day, you have to do your system, you gotta farm your keys, blah blah blah. I hate doing that. Ashes Creation does not have that. They do have a pretty vast artesian crafting system, which I've kind of dipped my little toesies into, and it is kind of complex and overwhelming at first, because a lot of your crafting and stuff that you need, you have to go to certain cities in order to do certain things, because they have artisans upgraded, and they have nodes, specific node perks upgraded to where you can only craft that particular weapon or armor or whatever at that node, because it's been upgraded to that point. And of course, you get charged like a little fee or whatever. It is kind of democratic that way. It's probably the wrong word, but it does kind of bring value to what you're doing, like as a person. You can have like these little citizen fights. They're not called citizen fights, they're like node wars or whatever you want to call them. And it really kind of puts into perspective, like who do you want leading your city, what interests are aligned. So it's kind of like a republic in a way. And I don't know, I think it's kind of cool. So the next huge plus is the hybrid combat system. It's kind of like the Elder Scrolls Online and World of Warcraft put together. See, in World of Warcraft, you can't dodge roll, you can't block, you can't, stuff like that, right? In ESO, you can do all that. Your blocking is a huge portion of it, and your sprint, your stealth is actually plays a part. Your roll dodging, timed attacks. Ashes of Creation has that. It's kind of World of Warcraft with cooldowns, right? So it's World of Warcraft-esque because it does have cooldowns. It's not like action combat like Elder Scrolls Online to where no abilities have any cooldowns. So it's kind of like a mesh of the two, which is pretty decent. You really have to watch your stamina management because roll dodgers are absolutely huge, especially if you're a clothy. Blocking, obviously a well-timed block, the dodge, stun, CC, stuff like that. So it does have a nice hybridized combat feel to it, and I've not had any objections to it. It's super clean. Again, the spell effects are absolutely amazing. The synergies on the class are phenomenal, especially with the weapon skill lines. But yeah, I would say the combat is one of Ashes of Creation's strongest points. Customization, where it is still pre-alpha, there's really not a lot of customizations, but you can do a lot. So I think there's going to be 9 classes when it officially drops, and then there's going to be 64 combinations of classes, which is like hybridizing. For example, don't quote me on this, I might be completely wrong. For example, if you wanted to play a cleric and a mage, I think if you put those two together, it's called a priest or something like that. I'm not exactly sure how that multi-class system is going to work because that comes out in Alpha 3, but the cosmetics are pretty cool. The mounts are pretty awesome. I've seen some pretty low-key, just beautiful mounts, and the way you go about getting them is it ain't easy. People do charge a pretty penny for it, but once you have a certain mounts, it's kind of like a status symbol. It's really cool. So unlike other MMOs, Ashes Creation is very PvP focused. Pretty much everywhere you go, everything is trying to kill you. It feels like you're walking on eggshells around anyone that you really meet, especially in the highly populated grind spots, because what I have found, especially running in some of my groups, like once you start getting toward the end game, you get good gear, and when you die, you're not risking, losing, a shit ton of experience and, kind of resetting your leveling progress. People are very antsy to flag up for PvP if you're in their area and you're fucking up their pools. I personally love that. A lot of people's not gonna like it, but having that uncertainty that anyone could kind of kill you at any time does make you play the game a little bit different, because when you die, you do drop your resources. You don't drop gear or anything unless you're, actually, a PK or, for example, but you do drop your resources, like, everything you've been farming, your glint, which is the equivalent of gold. And that's another thing. Gold is really hard to come by. I do very much appreciate the economy in Ashes Creation. There's been some speed hackers and kind of running amok. I think there's a 28 ban, and then Steven's supposed to release more ban lists later. But the economy is absolutely everything in Ashes, and pretty much everything that you do, you can turn a profit on. There's not something that is useless to where you're wasting your time. Everything feels pretty viable. Yeah, there's some things that are better than others, but even when it comes to like the farming aspect of it, like harvesting rock or wood or blah blah blah, whatever, all that really has a purpose. Yes, it goes into crafting, it can go into fuel, for your horses, whatever. When you're making mounts, it goes to node resource management, stuff like that. Pretty much everything you do has a purpose. One of the biggest W's of Ashes Creation is that there is going to be zero pay to win. Yes, there is RMT. You're going to have RMT in any game that there ever was. You can't get that out, but yes, a huge W to Steven and his team for not having any pay to win and not supporting that in any way to turn a profit. Unlike some other games, ESO, Gina Bruno. And never kind of off the topic, I did kind of touch on this a little bit ago. The community managers and the dev team are so in tuned with their community and down in the trenches with their community. They listen to any and all feedback because they quite frankly want to make the game as best as possible. And I've not had one single bad interaction with anyone from the dev team. Everyone from that team, honest to God, like, this is how video games should be designed, should be played. And honest to God, like, kudos to these guys for putting their blood, sweat, and tears in this game and releasing the game in a pre-alpha status and letting us play it all this time and gathering all this feedback and information. And I truly think that Ash's creation is going to be, it's not going to be the next World of Warcraft by no means, but it is definitely going to be a game that, man, once you sink your teeth into, you're not going to be able to let go. All right, let's start with some of the cons. Obviously, long-term development is going to be a couple years before it comes out. It is pretty expensive to play. The alpha keys are like $100 a pop, unless you have like a founder's pack. I think I pay like $250 for a founder's pack, and it comes with like all the accesses, all the alphas, blah, 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 plus all the cosmetics when they do come into the game. There is a concept called dynamic server meshing. So this is going to be the first of its kind. It is essentially what the ESO's mega server should have been, to where everyone is in the same place at all times. And with dynamic server, there's no phasing. There's nothing like that. Like where you are is where you are, and they can get away with that with dynamic server meshing. You guys can look that up, but essentially Steven and his team went into creating this game with the dynamic server meshing in mind. Essentially it's just a way to render and not render certain aspects of the game in real time, to where it's not clogging up your computer CPU and processing power, to where it's very not invaluable by no means, but it does have a lot easier time keeping track of everyone and what they're doing and stuff like that. There are a lot of bugs, man. There's so many fucking bugs in this game. I have a whole Excel sheet of bugs and stuff I ran into. The UI kind of sucks. They're getting there. I mean, there's a lot of little quirky. Again, it's alpha. You know, you're hearing me say that like probably 5 or 6 more times. That it is alpha. I understand it's not a complete game by no means. Lackluster doing stuff. Once you hit level 25, man, unless you're into PvP, to be honest, you should be playing Ashes if you don't enjoy PvP to an extent, because you're going to PvP at some point. It's going to happen. It's going to be forced, and you just got to deal with it. And another thing is, I don't know if you would really consider this a con, but it's kind of like the studio's new. You know, it's Intrepid Studios. From what I gather and from what I've seen from all the podcasts and the updates and the drops and the Discord, man, this, even though, you know, the old saying, you know, the known devil's better than like the unknown devil or whatever, but I think these guys have what it takes to make Ashes a pretty damn good game. And I do believe it is going to be one of those games that it's not for the casual player. I'm just going to say that if you think you're going to toss, you know, like 4 or 5 hours a week and have any progress in Ash's creation, you're mistaken. It is a grind. When I say grind, I mean a grind, dude. And if you're not in that mindset, you don't have the attention span to sit there and grind mobs over and over and over. Again, it's alpha. However, it is such a grind fest to hit level cap. It is absurd. The leveling process, okay, yeah, whatever. You'll eventually get to level 25. What really holds this game back so far that I've found are gear drops. Gear is everything. Okay. I'm putting this in the con section. This should probably be in the pro section, really depending on how you look at it. Nothing that you have, so everything that you get in the game, everything, even quest items, is tradable. That is good and bad. The good side being is that if you get an immaculate set of like twink armor, you know, whatever, you have like level 10 armor, level 20, level 30, level 40, level 50 armor, whatever. If you ever grind up a new character, whatever, you can transfer all that gear to your level 10, level 20 to make that leveling process easier. You never have to get it again. With that being said, that can be exploited very heavily because in the last playtest, guilds were renting out like the best in slot legendary armor. You know, it's like level 10, level 20. So when it comes to like the PvP aspect of it, it's like, man, it's very, 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 very gear dependent. The drop rates are extremely low. In order to get the drops, you kind of had to be in a group. So me as a solo player found it very frustrating because I had to spam LFG and chat to try to find a group. And then when you're in the group, is a need greed system. People ninja everything. You really don't get the stuff that you need. That is annoying. And personally, I really don't know how you fix that. I do like the need greed system. a lot of the armor, a lot of the weapons can kind of be used on any class. And I do think that is one of the downfalls to Ashes, is build variety. Yeah, you'll have a fair bit of class variety. I did touch on this a little bit earlier in the video, but coming from ESO, build crafting was one of the main reasons that I played that game in general. And I think, again, one of the biggest cons to Ashes Creation, there's really not a lot of build variety. There is very distinct best in slot items. You go and get those items, you put them on your build, and you're just better for it. There's no creativity with it. Unlike ESO, this is something they did very well. They had hundreds of sets. And those hundreds of sets drastically impacted how your combat works, how your class works, how the game functions. And me, you guys know I'm permabanned from that game. There's a reason I'm permabanned, because I exploited the shit out of these sets and their hidden interactions. And that's what I did. That's what I enjoyed doing. I enjoyed breaking the game. In Ashes Creation, there's not a lot of that yet. I'm keyword yet. And I'm actually kind of curious to see how Steve and his team react to finding these quote-unquote exploits post-alpha. It's going to be in the alpha and beta for the next couple years or whatever. But I kind of wonder what's going to happen to players like me, cough, cough, once the game goes live and these exploits exist. You know what I mean? I can only imagine not well. However, it is good feedback for the community, good feedback for them, for people like myself to find them and showcase them and get them fixed, because at the end of the day, no one wants to be at a disadvantage, especially with a time heavy sync game. I don't think people having an unfair advantage it really does, or really solves anything. Yeah, it's fun for a couple of days, whatever. Like in ESO, the whole Clever Alchemist bug where you can get 3 stacks of that instead of 1. Now that shit's just fun, it's funny, you know what I mean? But with that being said, since Ashes of Creation is a very PvP-centric game, forced PvP-centric games at many points in your leveling process and your grinding process, that can get out of hand really quickly. So I really hope Steven and his team does have a hand on, or at least kind of boots on ground to what's actually going on in the Discord, exploits, hacks, kind of whatever. I think they're going to get a lot better handle on it than ESO. At least I hope so. All in all, I've had a phenomenal time in Ashes Creation. The dev team is great. The game is great. I really do feel like I'm rewarded for the time that I invested into the game. And again, I'm playing this as a solo player, which Ashes Creation, you should not be playing it as a solo player. I thought it was a pretty pleasant experience. There's really not a MSQ, main story quests or quest lines. It's mostly just grinding mobs, getting gear, and dicking on kids on PvP. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day, man. If you guys know this channel at all, we all about that PvP life, and it has been an absolute blast. I'll start uploading some clips, now that I'm in game, I can actually have fun and not get shit on all the time, right? But so if you guys want to be notified for that, just hit the like and sub. Do me a favor. It helps. It helps let the little robot algorithm know kind of what you guys want to see going forward. Again, if you haven't already, go follow me on Twitch at Hoarcrux YT. That would be greatly appreciated. And it's great to be back, guys. Kind of let me know down in the comments if you played Ashes Creation, kind of what class you have played, your experience as a solo or group player. I would actually be pretty interested in hearing your guys' thoughts. And yeah, good to be back. Missed you guys very, very much. And I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.